So into the charts we go on this Sunday, and basically what we have is a continuation of what we've seen over the past few days. So we're now on the fourth day of consolidation. And the beautiful thing about this is that you're beginning to mature as a bullish pattern. So again, it's, you're still somewhat immature, but you're a lot more mature than you were after one or two candles. We're now at 4 candles. The key is as we advance to that time count, which would be 7 candles, that's where you start to look. So once you get to like 6 candles of consolidation to 7, that's where you start to expect the next move to take hold. What's fascinating about this, folks, is if we look at this time count, and again, time counts are something that will literally change your view and your life when you learn them. It's that the time count is literally going to match up to the FOMC decision on Wednesday. So think about that. Think about how the charts magically align with this pattern, this time count, coming into the FOMC on Wednesday, the Federal Reserve on Wednesday. So it's remarkable, folks. I mean, it is remarkable, and what it tells us is that, it doesn't mean we can't have a move prior to that, but it's very, very likely we'll just see sideways chop, maybe a little up, maybe a little down, going into that statement, and then that's the game changer, right? That's the big move that you're going to get, because the Fed is either going to say, hey, we're going to hike by 50 or 75. That's, to me, a no-brainer. I don't know if it's going to be 50 or 75, but I think the market doesn't really care, right? The market is going to care about what they say going forward. I think the market wants them to say, okay, we're doing, let's say, 75. We're now going to pause and wait a few months, maybe till January, to reevaluate. And if we get that, folks, this market, again, you should see Bitcoin rip to the upside. And again, that's kind of what the market is looking for. What the market doesn't want to see is the Fed say, okay, we're going to hike by 75, and then we're going to still do 50 in December, and then we're still going to do 50 in January. And, they don't want to see that. Now, would they be okay with 75 at this meeting, 50 in December, and then going into January and February 25? Yeah, I mean, as long as there's a downslope. Basically, the market wants to look for that end of hikes, and that will give us some ability as investors to know that it is coming to a close. The hiking series here is coming to a close. So the bottom line is, you still look at this pattern. I would say we're now at about 70% in terms of bullish consolidation. We're not as high as we could get if we got a time count plus a bull flag, but that again could occur going into Tuesday and Wednesday. Upside, simple. Upside is 22.4 to 22.5. Downside, if it does fail, and let's be clear, anything can happen, all right? Even if probabilities are 70%, there still leaves about a 30% chance that something occurs that causes it to collapse. If it does collapse, the big support is down here. You will have some support right here as well at around 19.6, which interestingly enough is the 2017 high again. Notice we've been doing this dance around that level for quite some time, but the big one would be down here, this kind of lower band channel, trend line, pivot low here, here, and right through. Okay, let's go to ETH real quick here as we make our way. Ethereum yesterday made a high, got kind of close to this downsloping trend line, now pulling back a little bit. I still think we're going to hit that. The big question once we hit that, can it break through and can it tag here? And potentially, can it even go up to about the 2,000 level again? Now, again, keep in mind that for me, I think you could get to about close to 1,800. For me, I'm unsure if it can get through 1,800, right? The 1,785, 1,800 level. I think this one it can probably pierce and maybe touch here. But whether or not it gets through this level, that's going to be the more unknown for me that I'm going to be following. Now, just out of curiosity, and again, I'm just looking at trend lines here. One of the trend lines I think that's worth kind of noting here would be this downsloping trend line, right? So pivot point to pivot point here, which touches right here, and that gives you one more target, which is pretty close to the 2,000 level as well right here. So again, maybe that would be your next resistance on the way up if we were to get back to that level. All right, let's quickly go through a couple that we're holding here. Cardano pulling back just a bit, still hovering right around or just above 40 cents. I don't really see anything new on this chart. Again, we had that beautiful pop yesterday taking us to about 44 cents, now back to 40 cents. Again, ideally we want to see consolidation, and then we have to get through this downsloping trend line. This area has been tested multiple times, right? Here, you touched the bottom line here, and then you pierced it here. So that line is now not as strong as it once was. What still is strong is this one. We haven't touched this line since back here. And remember, the methodology dictates that the longer you stay away from a level, the firmer it becomes again. So here, we hit it, and we pulled back, and we hit it. There wasn't a lot of time in between here, but again, it was early on in the hits. It was only the third hit, right? So you could count this as 1, 2, and 3. Usually by the fourth hit, that's where you start to get the potential of a break on it, but because we were away from it so long, the odds of breaking through on your fourth hit are somewhat diminished because they've had time to essentially refortify that line of resistance. So this is the crazy methodology that I've learned over 20 years of trading, and again, this is why I speak about it so openly in these. But again, the point is, I want you guys to understand that there's a method to the madness, and it really is mind-blowing when we get into this kind of stuff, folks. And again, it changes everything about the way you look at charts. All right, so that's what we're seeing on the charts right now in Cardano. I want to flip to these other ones here. Let's quickly look at Polkadot. See what we got on DOT US dollar. DOT US dollar, same thing, pulling back, still has resistance right up here. Again, sideways action, that's fine because, again, sideways would be consolidating off a big up move, which would be bullish consolidation. And then you want it to get through this $6.75 to 80 cent level. And if it does, then you have some upside. Then I think, again, you have a shot at $7.75 or so. Taking a look at Avalanche, after really a remarkable move. I give credit for Avalanche for not pulling back that much. If you look at the scheme of how big of a move it was, so far this is a very shallow pullback. Ideally, I would love it to hold this 1650 to 1675 trend line right here, which is support. And if it does that and just consolidates, watch out because you should get another solid move to the upside. Lastly, Solana, awesome. Again, big push up. And again, only one pullback day. That's fine and dandy. Nothing wrong with that. But we do have to get through this $34.20 level or so right here. And then we can track to about 38 and change. Just going through some of the charts. So yesterday I went through some of the cryptocurrencies. I like to just go over a couple different ones each time, unless anything's getting real crazy. We looked at Polygon. Let's see here. Let's take a look at Tron, see if there's anything going on Tron. TRX is the symbol on that one. Let's take a look at that, see what we got there. Yeah, so Tron, very clear. Here was a down-sloping trend line. These are kind of old news now, so what I can do is I can actually erase them, and we'll keep the chart a little cleaner. The one thing I am seeing is just look right here, right? So very clearly right through essentially this area here, you have this area, this area, this area. You could also make a case that it's a down-sloping trend line. Look, pivot exact high to exact high to exact high. So this is just a lot of resistance for Tron, and it's struggling here. There's no doubt about it. Now, again, if it can break through here, you go all the way up to about 7 cents. But again, that's your line in the sand right now. Let's take a look at Uniswap here. Uniswap's had a nice move up, but it is getting a pullback. This is a trend line that you have to be watching. This is going to be a big resistance trend line on it. Now, interestingly enough, you could argue you have an inverse head and shoulder here. And again, we'll have to see how that plays, but this would be your neckline. Again, shoulder, head, and shoulder. Your target, if this played out, $3.30 to 10, we'll call it even 10.30. That's a $7 move. So you'd be looking at like $15 if this actually played out to target, which is actually pretty cool. Again, I'm skeptical that it will, but I'm going to watch it, and if I see the right signs, that might be a kind of a beautiful opportunity for us. And if that happens, by the way, then you're going to see a lot of cryptos going nuts. Another one I haven't looked at in a while is Chainlink that I have traded quite a bit. And again, you can see Chainlink has moved up, but it's still stuck in this range. In fact, interestingly enough, you have a little bit of a trend line right here, right? So if you put pivot high, and then look what we're tagging right there. So short-term resistance right there, plus this level right here, lots of resistance right here. If it gets through this, you go to about $9.50 on Chainlink. Downside, very obvious, upsloping trend line. You just don't want that line to break. If it broke, then that's obviously, really bad for the cryptocurrency there. All right, guys, I think that's all I'll go over today. You guys have a wonderful rest of your Sunday. Some of you guys might even be into Monday now. All good and dandy.